Again, today, August 25th, 2022, the title is Consciousness, Decreeing the God I Am, number 407. I want to start by saying, before prayer or any kind of treatment, we must know that we are already that which we hope for or that which we hope to be or to experience. We have to know that we already are that which we desire. We are whole, and the decree and demonstration are made in consciousness. Let me say that again. The decree and the demonstration are made in consciousness. You know, like when a king has a decree, somebody else basically reads it. The king has decreed, but the king is the consciousness, and the person that reads it is the person who is seeing it and understanding it. In other words, the king, you, the reality of who you are, is consciousness, and you, that which you have conceived yourself to be, this human being, you read it and you decree this thing, but it's all done in consciousness. That which I see within, I be in the outer. I think Marie Watts says it like, seeing is being. Our consciousness is the mind, the assurance, the substance of our hope, of our expectations, and the evidence of the invisible ideas, the Word made flesh. This consciousness, this mind, this assurance is the evidence of invisible ideas. It is the Word made flesh. Our consciousness is the power to manifest these ideas as forms. Everything is given. Prayer is the decreeing that it is done. We have the mind, the consciousness of Christ. Prayer is trapping the thoughts of God. But God is divine consciousness, and we are an individualization of that consciousness, sons of God, one with God, and that mind that was also in Christ, that is our consciousness. That is who we are. My awareness that I am is God. You are aware that you are. I remember Neville saying, you can forget where you are. You can even forget what you are. But you cannot forget that you are. And that awareness is God. The Word became flesh and dwelt among them. It became apparent. The Word first became form, image, within mind, within consciousness, which in turn cast a reflection in the outer, which the world calls real. The world calls the outer real. However, the real is within. The ideas within make up the real. Creation is complete. It is complete as it can ever be. Nothing is to be created. Completed creation is to be decreed. Consciousness decrees that which is already created and completed. All things are yours and are to be reflected on the screen of the outer world. That's John 1. Things, the Word becomes flesh. Consciousness becomes the actual outer pictures that are cast within first. These images, these forms, these are the ideas that come forth. Now, in John 8, in verse 58, Jesus decreed, before Abraham was, I am. He knew it in consciousness, and his consciousness decreed it. It had to be in his experience. It didn't have a choice. We have the mind of Christ. And Christ's consciousness is God, is all, filling all space. And we are always decreeing demonstration in consciousness. Now think about it. Before Abraham was, I am. Before anything foolish, stupid, or crazy, I am. Now, who am I listening to? I am listening at these mortal thoughts, sinful thoughts, which means mistakes. And before anything crazy happens to me, I thought it. I realized it. I thought I was making it real, but I wasn't. I was just getting ready to experience something that I really had no business experiencing since I have the mind of Christ. You know, just to throw this in right here, I went back and took a look over my experiences from the time I went to, especially, junior high school. And I went into junior high school, and I was never able to really be accepted into the junior high basketball team. I went on to high school, and I wasn't accepted on the high school basketball team. And then I changed schools in the 12th grade and made the team. The coach said, "You've made my first 10 ball players." He said, "You are definitely going to play." And within a month, I was off the team because the principal thought that because I had transferred, I was ineligible. He didn't even look up the policy. And then in the end, it was, no, you could have played because you transferred before the basketball season started. But nobody fought on my behalf to be able to play. Now, what really made it really crazy was I was riding with my aunt, so I could only practice basketball for about 45 minutes every day. They went on to practice for 2 hours. I had to ride home with my aunt because she was not going to wait for me for basketball practice. And I thought about that, but I was too blind to understand what was going on. And so as I went on through college, making mistakes and having things go wrong, as I got older with my music and watching things go wrong, watching things fall apart, still not knowing that before any of that stuff was taking place in my experience, I am. What I was basically saying was, I am this. I am that. I am these mistakes. I am this foolishness. I am causing this. If I be lifted up, I draw all men. What the word all? See, I draw the foolishness unto me if I don't listen to that which I truly am, the Christ consciousness. Because none of that is in Christ consciousness. No mistakes. Him who knew no sin became sin for us all. So there has to be a decreeing in consciousness that I am not this. I do not have this going on in me. I am the Christ consciousness. I am that I am. And the literal translation of that in Aramaic is, I am the living God. Now you can no longer imagine the living God having foolishness go on in its experience, having sin and sickness and disease and poverty and lack. That can't go on because I am constantly reassuring myself that I am that which I desire. And because I am decreeing that in consciousness, I'm going to end up saying it, and it's going to become flesh, a visible form. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But moving on, we must keep our consciousness focused on truth. We are filled with the truth. But we have to constantly remind ourselves of this fact. Remember, our consciousness is our experience. We can have it the right way, the truth and the life, or we can have it with its ups and downs, highs and lows, but mostly downs and lows. Mostly downs, mostly lows. Our choice to either stand firm and reject the pictures and thoughts coming from mortal mind or accept them. Rejecting these errors keeps us focused on always being aware that we're constantly being the presence of God. That is the prize of the high calling in Christ. I am always the presence of God. I am never entertaining good and evil. Mortal mind, changing thoughts of so-called good and evil, which I call personality, is nothing, can do nothing, and here's the clincher. It's ignorant of that fact. It thinks it can do something. Otherwise, it will voluntarily take a back seat to us and stop trying to become something it can never become. And what's that? Spiritual. The materialistic ego wants to be in charge, wants the credit, and needs the attention. You see, we constantly think that just because we want something means that we're egotistical. That's how quickly personality, the mortal mind, can switch up and change on you. Oh, you just trying to prove that you this. Or, hey, physician, heal yourself. Oh, you think you're God. I realized that consciousness is the God I am. There's nothing else to me. Something is trying to paint me in a different kind of a way, trying to get me to conceive myself to be something that I am not. But I'm always listening, and I am always paying attention to the consciousness that I am, which is God. It has to be. We are the mind of Christ, and the Christ mind knows that it is one with God. Universal consciousness, the Son, individual consciousness, and then there's the expression, the demonstration. Demonstrating what? The fact that I realize that I am consciousness, and before anything happens in my experience, I am. See, we always get what we pay for. Isaiah said, come and buy. I added the word stuff. Come and buy stuff without price, without money, without cost. Now, what this means to me is we can buy good or evil without cost. We purchase it with our awareness of truth or the lack thereof. We're always buying. We're always paying. We do it all the time. We buy fear, doubt, unbelief, failure, poverty, lack, and the list just goes on and on and on. We can just as easily buy all the good ideas that are embodied in our soul. We can simply decree what's ours in consciousness, and the word becomes flesh. Our consciousness is the conviction that God has already provided everything that is necessary for us to glorify Him, her, it, however you want to call God. We have to decree because we're always buying, we're always purchasing, we're always the consciousness of the Word made flesh. Now, we just cannot afford to carry these conflicting thoughts in consciousness. We cannot afford to keep listening to mortal mind and its declarations of, I can achieve this, I can do this, I can go here. Think about Jesus on the mountain. You know what? God said, if you do, throw yourself off this pinnacle. You are the Lord. So, tempt God. Do this, do that. Go prove it. Go walk on water if you God. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to know I am the consciousness of the Christ, which is the Son of God. And I am entitled. I am entitled to everything that God says that I am and that I have. You see, if what this mortal man considers good happens, have you ever noticed that it always comes with some kind of attachment? And we all know what those attachments are. I call them hangers-on. It's the fine print that we overlook because we're so excited about signing the contract. We either have all the good or we have good and evil. What I call these conflicting, opposing thoughts in our experience. You see, in the Christ consciousness, we don't have the conflicting thoughts. We don't have that. But over here in this mortal guy, this natural man, Paul called it the natural man. With good and evil, things remain the same until they inevitably get worse. You ever notice that? They just stay the same. You keep going. You're going through some. They say it like this. It's cyclical. Sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes just flat with the ground. Things have a way of going and coming. It's you have a season of good, then you have a season of bad. You got this, you got that. It just remains that way until what? It gets inevitably worse. Then it doesn't get better. It just keeps spiraling downward. You can count on that. Mortal mind consciousness can do nothing good, nothing whatsoever. Now, in Job, he says, you can decree a thing, and it is so. Now, we've clarified the fact that decreeing is done in consciousness. It's not so much of what we say, because those end up as mostly affirmations that people don't believe. It's not so much what you say, but it's what you know. What you know. And it is always done in mind consciousness. Now, I'm talking about the good. I want to decree a good. I want to decree I am whole. I am wealthy. I am rich. I am prosperous. I am faithful. I want to decree that. But just saying that's not the answer. That's like a cloud that has no rain in it. It only blocks the sun, especially when you need it. But when you know the truth, you are free. Free from what? From mortal mind. You are free because you now use that mind as an instrument to be able to reflect and carry out the forms of good in the earth. Because we're always in heaven. There's nothing in consciousness but heaven. You see, my agreement with this truth is prayer. I've just trapped the thoughts, the ideas of God. And in consciousness, I am decreeing them as ideas made flesh. Ideas which are in form. That's what we're doing here. But the problem is, most people don't know that they're doing that. And so, therefore, they got some good, and then it comes the same way the Roman candle went up, it fizzles out. That's just how it is in the natural world. Everything that goes up just fizzles out. It has to, because it has nothing to sustain it. People have all of these wonderful ideas of who they're going to be. That's the first thing you ask when you go to school, when you're growing up. What are you going to be when you grow up? I wonder what a kid would say if you looked at that kid and said, you know what? Creation is complete. You're already grown. So how are you going to express that completion? In other words, start at the end. I heard Neville say that too. If you start at the end, I'm already what it is that I want to be. What is it going to look like all along the way? And it's going to fill up the consciousness with desires. Now, at 3 years old, you're not going to know. And at 5, you won't. But you do know one thing. You want to play. You want to have fun. You want a tricycle. You saw somebody ride a bicycle. You want that. You saw somebody playing ball or this. These things will begin to have an attraction. Now, if you wonder why, it's because your imagination is doing what? If I be lifted up, I draw all men, all manifestations unto me. That's what I'm doing. I'm seeing myself do a lot of different wonderful things. The problem is, as I get older and older, I might see myself do some wonderful things, but I won't see myself continually doing these wonderful things. I will see this thing begin to fall. I'll see somebody come in and want to make changes into what it is that I'm doing. I'll see somebody come in and say, well, you know, as we said, what had happened was our things changed. And what happens? They're not buying this kind of stuff anymore. You need to come up with something new. There is nothing new under the sun. I don't need to come up with anything new. I do need to rise in consciousness. We'll talk about that at another time, but that's another whole message. But I do need to rise in consciousness. I need to rise above the fact that I need to do something out here to make a difference so that I can continue doing what it is that I dream or desire of doing. You see, I can't let people dictate to me what it is that I want and how to get it done. I already have within me how it is done. Okay, well, since you asked, here's how. Here's how we decree. 1, thinking right. 2, feeling right. 3, seeing right. I call this insight. Intuition. I can see right. The third eye. 4, talking right. And 5, acting right. Let's say that again. Thinking right, feeling right, seeing right, which is insight, talking right, and 5, acting right. Now, thinking and feeling work together. You have to know this. You always generate a feeling from a thought. You do. You think something, and then the first thing is, how do I feel about this? If you don't think that you're doing that, just go watch the news. And somebody said, well, you got an opinion, but an opinion comes along as a thought, as a feeling. And remember, we said earlier, you're always buying something without money and without price. So now you're going to consciously, unconsciously purchase something without money and without thought, because you're going to feel a certain way about what you just thought. Now, it can be a feeling of conviction, or it can be a feeling of hesitancy, fear, doubt, or even a feeling of indifference. There are some things you just say, oh, man, I could care less. That's still a feeling. You feel like this is what I want to do, but, man, how in the world would I ever? Mostly it's what? I don't have enough money to get it going. Or how about this one? I'm too old. You know what that feels like. And, man, you know what? We ought to do X, Y, and Z. Well, you see, we would need. My God will supply all your needs. Well, how is he going to do it? I don't see anything out here happening. How do I get this going? Decree it in consciousness. Thinking and feeling work together. They're a polarity. And the moment I'm thinking, you know what, I can get this done. Then you start giving up the feeling of the hesitancy and the fear and the doubt. And you start to feel like, I can do this. I can do this. I just took on the responsibility of helping a church out, an Episcopal church. And you know, everything there is basically, it's liturgical, it's ceremonial, it's organized down all the way from the beginning to the end, and they have songs that they want you to play and sing, and you're sitting there saying, I'm a singer. I had piano lessons, but that was not where my interest was. I have always been able to read the melody line, and I can kind of feel, no, not kind of, I basically feel where the background, the rest of the chord, the bass lines, where they ought to be, what they ought to be. But here comes the other side. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I embarrass myself and I'm playing something and they don't know it and they know what they're doing and I don't know, but I'm trying to fill in. I'm plunking around. I don't want to be that. But then you settle in your consciousness. But that's not who I am. I learned everything else. I can read the melody line. I can read the harmony notes. I have a piano. I can sit home and all of a sudden I'm starting to feel like, well, I can do this. And then I want to help my friend, my neighbor across the street. It's her church. She helped me with Cynthia. I'm not just returning the favor. It's just love your neighbor as yourself. You don't get any more neighborly than the person who lives right across the street. So you start feeling like, oh, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. And then you meet with the, they call him the vicar, who is in charge of the church, in charge of everything that's going on in there. And he understands, and he says, okay, well, we can make some changes right here. Look at what I'm drawing. I'm drawing it to make it easier for me, and I'm drawing it to make it easier for them because they're not looking to have to sit there and start learning songs. He had one song in there that I know they don't know. And he crossed it out and let me put back what I was doing because I've already played there twice. But what happens? Just think about, let's take, and then we'll get off this thing about feeling. Think about anger. What makes you mad? You don't just get angry. Something jump-starts that emotion. You see, you don't just, look at what I was feeling at first about, oh, wow, man, you get all these little butterflies. I know y'all get it. Butterflies all down in your stomach. Man, I got to be up. What makes it worse, I got to get up at 8 o'clock, get my shower, get everything done. I got to be down there around 9:30. I got to make, and all of a sudden I start going, man, I shouldn't have to go through all of this. What in the world? I mean, this is crazy. Why does he have to make it hard? Then I start getting mad. I start getting angry. Why? Because I'm feeling something. It has jump-started that emotion. But then I got to put it in check. And I got to, well, how's that working for you? So I got to stop that and get back to, well, what am I decreeing in consciousness? Oh, I'm decreeing that I can't do this. I need to stop that. I need to realize, I can do this. I can do anything. And then they come up with, oh, some of these songs are on this website, and you can go in and punch the little arrow like YouTube and hear it. Bing. Okay. Now what am I doing, y'all? I'm doing number 3. I'm seeing it right. I have insight into faith, which is what? The mind of Christ. See, it'll be an idea with an image. I can see myself learning it. I can see myself right now as I'm talking to you guys. I can see myself sitting over there at the piano, going through playing one of those songs and listening and getting it right. I can see that because I thought about it and I felt it, and now I'm seeing it the right way. I'm looking in my mind, which is heaven. With the mind's eye, that's they call it. I think it's the Indians. They call it the chakra, the pineal gland. It's right between the eyebrows. You're looking with clarity. You're seeing. Jesus could look and realize what had already been done. That's what you're seeing with. You see yourself do it before you do it. Never calls it imagination. You can call it whatever you want. I call it visioning. Some people call it visualization. Doesn't matter. Why does it work? Because all things are already done. Jesus said, whoever lusts in the heart has already committed the sin, the mistake. Whatever you lust after to have sensual pleasure as a result, you've already done it. You've already done it. See, everything is done in consciousness, mind, and it is felt in the heart. Now, with that being true, if you see it right, the next thing you're going to do is what? You're going to talk it right. You'll just start saying what goes along with your thoughts, your feelings, and your insight. You'll just keep talking right along down that road. If you're smart or if you're wise, you'll keep talking it within yourself. You'll keep talking, oh, yeah, I can do this. I see this. I've thought it and feel it. You'll stay focused on hearing only that which you wish to hear. Nobody wants to sit up and hear, I can't do this. You know what? I've thought about this. I can't. Of course you can't. Not as the mortal mind, not as the human being, because that personality can do nothing. It has to be lifted up. Again, we'll talk about that on another day. If I be lifted up, I draw the manifestation. What manifestation? That which I desire or that which I feel I can't do. Just like Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. You see, in some cases, don't get me wrong now. In some cases, you will listen to the wrong voices because maybe you've taken the 5 steps in the wrong direction. You see, the 4 steps. We haven't gotten to the 5th one yet. See, you thought it, you felt it, you've seen it, and you start talking it, and maybe you start talking you've done it all in the wrong direction. And so, remember, as we said earlier, the direction of the mortal mind, you get what you pay for. But having done those 4 steps correctly, you will automatically do number 5, act right. I used to think, how do I act right? Well, you know how to act right. You've thought right. You've felt right. You've seen right. You're just going to act like what you've done. You talked right, and so now you just start acting like what you believe. That's how you know you believe. You ever tried to say stuff you don't believe? Doesn't work, does it? But when you're acting right, you will not even give any thought to acting any other way. In fact, it'll be so real to you that you'll feel like you're smiling throughout your whole body. Why? Because you've decreed a thing in consciousness, and it is rewarding you. It is so. You are the consciousness rewarding your natural self, natural man self. You have taken the reins away from this natural man self and told it, you know what? You just sit over there until I tell you what to do. And let's go through those 5 steps one more time, because this came to me in a flash last night. I think it, and the next thing I know is I feel what I'm thinking. And then I start seeing it. And then I start talking it. I'm talking within myself. And then I start acting it. But you know something funny about when you're acting it, you draw to you somebody who asks you something that's related to it, and you will talk to them, and they will understand. And they say, well, you know what, I believe that. I can see that. I can understand. I agree. You will not draw the naysayers. The only time you draw the naysayers is you're carrying the naysayers in consciousness, and you're carrying in you that which you thought about and you felt it. You know what, I'm having a hard time with them, and they this and they that. And let all that go. Let it go and follow me. Who is me? Consciousness, the mind that was in Christ Jesus. That's what you want to follow. So in closing, I ask you, just think about it. I do this talk every Thursday. Kenny does talks on Wednesday, and he also does talks on Sunday. Where do they come from? Where are these talks coming from? How do we fill in the lines of the facts that we want to bring about? Where do the examples come from? What causes us to say what we say? See, we've thought it, and we felt it, and what else have we done? We've seen it, we're talking it, and we're acting like it. Where's it coming from? We haven't learned any of this. It's not coming from memory. It's from 1 Corinthians 2. The Spirit reveals the thoughts, the feelings, insight, the talk, and the actions to be taken. The Spirit of truth is come. It does what? It gives us all truth. It reveals all truth. The information is already in consciousness. I, Michael, am just the vessel it pours through. Who's doing the pouring? I am. Before Michael, I am. Give and it is given. I've always got something else to say. I just have to know when to shut it down. If I let Michael take over, he might rattle along all day long. But I know when to shut it down. And the only preparation I do is meditation. That's it. I ponder a statement, or I ask a question, and I feel a certain emptiness, that naturalness of I don't know. That's what I call a state of receptivity. It's called a vacuum. The void, which was in Genesis 1. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. That's when God, the consciousness, decrees, let there be. When I'm not giving attention to what needs to happen, the decreeing begins. Truth that I understand in mind, in consciousness, is the substance of my experience. These ideas have a time, and that time has come. It's always now. When is now? When I understand. And all that getting, Solomon said, get an understanding. An idea whose time has come is when I understand that this idea is ready to manifest itself. It's always been ready to manifest itself. I have come into an understanding and awareness of it is complete, and I have decreed that it is so, and it has to come forth. Consciousness has prepared the listening ear, and the word will not return unto me void. The word I've thought about, felt, seen, spoken, and acted on becomes flesh. It becomes forms. My consciousness, the consciousness that I am, the king, the queen, the one in charge, the one and only power that I am one with, decrees it, and it is so. Amen. And so it is.